what that says for us is He can do the same for you and for me. For the good and the bad. Meaning for whatever I need to be opposed and get it right, God can send anything to help achieve in me what He wants to see achieved in me and in you. It also means that, when we're in need and so forth, that He can appoint good things as well. When we're good, obedient children who deserve Daddy's gifts, but when we're not, who deserve Daddy's loving discipline, then He'll send that. But, back to verse 6 and the appointment of the plant. So He's either one, I've always, as I read through just as 5 and 6, I go, He built a shelter, God made this plant for shade. I would really suggest that maybe the idea that it was His will and desire, maybe in process, maybe again, not, didn't have the stuff. I mean, because I don't know how much shelter you can make out of, just dust and rock. I mean, if you got rocks, it might stack nice and whatever, But anyway, he was definitely still very far from what he had hoped for. So verse 6, so the Lord God appointed a plant, and it grew up over Jonah to be shade over his head to deliver him from his discomfort. And Jonah was extremely happy about the plant. But, so we know right away as you get to Bible, you read ahead or you know what's coming. We realize that from verse 6 that God's purpose was not Jonah's comfort, but to show more to Jonah and have Jonah learn another lesson. Because he grows his plant up, and yes indeed, he was like, oh man, it's perfect. I envision a big giant palm-like thing, okay? With big giant leaves overlapping, so you got, because I tell you what, I'm a creature of comfort. I liked comfort. Oh. And in my most perfect imagination, to be comfortable and having experienced it a few times, I can very much imagine it, is to be on a tropical beach with a big giant palm tree shading me from the sun. I want to be in the sun some, get some color, look good. But I don't want a lot, so I want that big palm tree to be in the shade, and you hear the wind in it just a little, the waves. Lying on that lounge chair. And if you're at one of those, all-inclusive resorts, it's like, anything you want. So, he's comfortable. That wasn't God's purpose for him. And that's something, I think maybe we'll come back to that notion. We'll finish on something. But God's purpose was not to make him comfortable. Just like I think it was Warren Wiersbe said a number of years ago, people talk a lot about being happy. Oh, it makes me happy. How happy I am. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life, and they tell me because they did this horrible thing, they left their spouse or something with somebody else. I've never been more happy in my life. I'm in sin, but I've never been more happy in my life. But God's purpose in us is not to be happy, but to be holy. And His purpose for us is not to be comfortable. He wants us to be happy. He wants us to be comfortable. But His purpose is on that. And so, verse 7 is, but God appointed a worm when dawn came the next day, and it attacked the plant, and it withered. So He gave him a taste of it for a day. Okay? The plant grew up because he was really pleased with the plant. Remember, he was really, really happy about the plant. Because he gave him shade the one day and it was awesome. But at dawn the next day, He appoints a worm. Now, apparently, I read somewhere some people figure probably what kind of plant this was. They do grow big and fast, but obviously this is supernatural, so it goes bigger and faster. But it's the type that if you sever any of its base, it's going to wither and fall quickly. Okay, so everything was kind of done on hyperspeed and hypersize and all this kind of stuff. That's the miracle part of it with God here. So, but he appoints the worm. It was God who did it. It wasn't just some worm that just happened to come by and say, that one looks very nice. And it was dawn the next day, which means, that's when it's going to start to get hot. In desert places, it gets hot immediately in the morning. And so he points, he attacked the plant and it withered. And it came about when the sun came up that God appointed a scorching east wind. So now he's doing everything very deliberately to make him very uncomfortable. No shade. It's hot. A scorching east wind. That means, and a scorching wind, it has to be about very near 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I know that from experience. I know that because I kind of did a little, almost an experiment once in the deserts of southwest Texas near Big Bend National Park in the Mexican border. We were driving along in a Volkswagen Vanagon. Had no air conditioning and only 2 windows. And we realized that, 95, you could still get some relief with the windows down. Okay? It got up around 100, and it was actually, we really made it, was absolutely, without a fact, just over 100. It's like, it's worse. Okay? The wind is worse. It makes it hotter. It feels more like an oven. The dehydrating factor and just the beating of that hot air upon you. And so then what we do is, but you roll them up. No AC. It's 110 and it's bright and sunny and it starts to cook the box. And so you gotta roll the windows down. And so we're up and down just trying to stay alive. And so scorching east wind, it's got to be in that 100+ range here. Okay? And very sunny, and he's out there, desert, no shade. And he points this wind, and the sun beat down on Jonah's head. So he became faint. Okay, we're talking some pretty serious heat here. To get the wind and the heat to become faint from him. And begged with all his soul to die. The guy's not a real happy guy. It's pretty easy to want to die here. Now, it's more than, it's pretty extreme stuff. But nonetheless, he's gone right back to the same place. Life is better, or death is better than life to me, he says a second time. Then God tries to extract the lesson from Jonah here in just these last 3 verses. Then God said to Jonah, do you have good reason to be angry about the plant? See, remember he asked him earlier, verse 4, do you have good reason to be angry? And this was in relationship to my grace shown to these people. Here, he's angry about the death of his beloved plant. The one for which he's extremely happy. And God asks him here, in this context, do you have good reason to be angry about the plant? And he said, I have good reason to be angry, even to death. It was good, it's not anymore. Then the Lord said, verse 10, you had compassion on the plant for which you did not work, and which you did not cause to grow, which came up overnight and perished overnight. And should I not have compassion on Nineveh, the great city, in which there are more than 120,000 persons who do not know the difference between their right and their left hand, as well as many animals? It's kind of like one of those, every now and then you watch movies, and then the screen goes black, and you think, it's got to be just this change between scenes. And then the credits roll. And you're going, there's still stuff unresolved, you know that? And here, God lays out this profound question to him. Should I not have compassion on Nineveh, the great city? Remember that the 120,000 people who don't know the left hand from the right hand, probably children, okay, would be infants and toddlers. And so if you kind of just do some math in terms of family size, etc., whatever, you can come pretty close to 1 million people. Maybe not quite, 800,000 something in there. A lot of people in the city. We talked about it was a great city, large, very large, important city at the time. And I have shown grace on this many. And maybe he talks about the 120,000 because those would be the innocent ones, wouldn't they? To maybe really bring them more in focus, not just the adults who willingly do these horrific things, but also focusing upon the children. But hundreds of thousands of people, should I not have compassion on this great city? You have had compassion upon a silly little planet that has no really abiding value. It gave you comfort for a while. But he's silent. The book ends with this silence. A couple of guys at the brothers meeting as we went through this just really weren't happy with that. And so we talked about, what is this silence? How is this silence to be understood? It would still, we could say this is concluded at this very instant. Now, obviously, the book's written later when he's been able to contemplate, I believe, and learn his lessons. But at this point, boom, in the history that he's recounting, he is still angry, depressed, hot, and faint. Because actually, the word used for anger, of Jonah's anger, is the word for hot. Jonah was hot. I thought that was kind of cool because I didn't know you said that sort of thing back in the ancient world. But he was, just like we would say, hot and hot-headed and angry. He's faint, he's hot, he's depressed, he's angry. He was left to contemplate God's word about his own lack of compassion and God's depth of compassion. And I think, undoubtedly, I believe we can very safely come to this conclusion concerning what was the nature of Jonah's heart at this point. Now, again, according to the histories that unfold, and he's recounting it right here, he has still got a problem. But he wrote this, and he's being very honest, isn't he? Because he's making himself look like a real idiot, or some other adjective he can throw in there. It's very unfavorable of himself, which really attests more to its accuracy and authenticity. The fact that one would be so